People don't want to pay more for people that don't do enough in their eyes, and we're basically essentially been rendered useless. The buyers aren't used to these conversations. The new world order that we're living in is going to force us to have these conversations where their consumer behavior is changing. It's the hardest sale to make. In the world where the media says that agents don't do anything, the world where people talk openly bad about agents, oh, they're glorified, they're this, they're unnecessary, AI, we could go to the listing, we could hire an attorney, we could do this all on our own. So we might get multiple rounds of objections on our close, and that's okay. They are the natural progression of the sales process. How dare they give me an objection? I just went through a 35-minute presentation. They should be thankful that I'm here. No, they shouldn't. There's a lot more of you than there are of them. What's up? Vikram Deal here with the Real Estate Sales Academy. I am really excited what we are going to share today with you. This is something that we made for Real Academy. Sharon Srivatsa, the president of Real, he's a good friend of mine. And he said, hey, Vic, I'm doing a buyer's presentation, like strategy session for thousands and thousands of agents open to the public. And I was wondering if you could spend some time to put together like a basic kind of how to handle objections. And when your buddy Sharon asks you to do something, you kind of go all out, right? And we put together a guide on how to actually handle the thought process of objections, right? It's one thing to know how to handle an objection. It's another thing to understand the thought process behind the objection. Today, we are opening it up for you. We're even going to go one step further. We're going to give you the guide, right? We're going to give you the 40-page guide for free, absolutely for free, because our motto in 2024 here at the Real Estate Sales Academy is no agent left behind. And when I go on forums and I hear how people are handling objections, worse, I hear when somebody asks for help, I hear what the alleged top agents are saying. Oh, that's easy. You just tell them to F off, right? And, well, if they're not going to give us a commission, we're not going to work with them. And like the crazy nonsense. Marry the home, date the rate, right? Like, I don't even know what that stuff means. The stuff that we're sold on a stage that agents floss around on their social media that doesn't work crushes me inside. So all you got to do is click the link below, put in your information. We will email this to you. We will text this to you. And I hope you implement it, right? You're going to want to watch these videos multiple times. I would save this. I would bookmark this. You're going to get a tremendous amount of value. So let's jump into it. This is the mindset behind the objections. This is why we get the objections. This is why we have the fear and the lack of confidence when we're inside of a buyer's presentation. Because let me tell you, doing a buyer's presentation and asking for compensation is going to be a lot harder because we have to change the behavior of the buyer. It's completely different. If you're going in a listing presentation, the seller expects to pay. Right? What the number is a negotiation, but the seller expects to pay. Here, the buyer doesn't realize that they're actually like, just straight out. The buyer's always paid the commission. It's just now the format for a lot of the ways that they pay it is going to change, but you can't just tell them, well, you're going to have to pay it, right? Here's what somebody posted on one of the Facebook forums. When somebody asks, somebody said, hey, so I'm a little nervous about the whole conversation around compensation. And they said, well, all you have to do is tell them that whether they work with you or they work with somebody else, they're going to have to sign an agreement and pay a commission, so they may as well just work with you. And that was in quotation marks. Like, that's what you should say word for word. And as somebody who's done over 500 personal buyer consultations, and my team's done another 500 to 600, 700, and I've sat in on 50% of them, I would tell you that if somebody said that to my parents, I would tell my parents to get up and walk out and take their business somewhere else because it's condescending and it's rude. So if you get value, do me a favor, all right? This is for our private clients. Do me a favor, hit like, hit subscribe, hit the notification button, because what we're going to unleash for the next couple of days is specific examples of how do you handle people when they say, I don't want to pay for an agent. We can't afford an agent. We want to use a listing agent. I think we might give one or two more bonuses, but you're going to miss it if you didn't like and subscribe. So make sure you hit the like and subscribe, and let's get into it. But I call this the 2024 Objection Guide. And this is about trust, rapport, influence, and sales. So the methodology that we create is called the TRIZ method, trust, rapport, influence, and sales. And you're going to see how we build trust throughout the process, right? Now, objections arise because the prospect has friction. right? If there's friction, there's going to be problems moving forward. So the everyday average agent, right? The everyday average agent has been trained to immediately handle the objections, which is fine, but I don't know. It just doesn't seem to really jive with me all that well in today's day and age. So the job of the new modern day agent, the TRIZ agent, is to reduce friction with the prospect, but together. It's not about selling. It's about coming together collaboratively to help reduce the friction so that they continue forward in the process, right? Whatever that might be for them. So one of the things that we want to show you, right, is that you're going to learn to be more conversational, right? Sales is about pattern recognition and structured frameworks. A lot of people think sales is about selling. No, sales is about how do we find the patterns, right? How do we find the patterns and how do we use those patterns to create structured frameworks so that we can have conversations with the person in front of us to help them move them in their process. Right now, I define sales a little bit differently. I define sales as moving somebody forward in the prospect. Phone call, inbound lead to an in-person belly-to-belly appointment, right? A lot of people define sales as a commission check. I actually think that's when we get fired, right? Because we got to go out and prospect. So I'd like to define sales as moving somebody forward in the process in your pipeline and helping them with what they need so that they can have the best outcome. Now, there's 3 buckets of agents. You guys are probably number 1. You're an innovator agent if you're watching this pre-July, right? Maybe you just joined Real, or maybe you just joined my group and you're watching this post-July. You're an innovator, right? You're trying to get better. There's the second bucket, which is I'm going to deal with problems as they arise. And then there's the third bucket, which is pray and hope to God that something doesn't change and that we keep on tracking the same way. But let's be real, the consumer has changed and the world has changed. Now, we have to think about the mindset. When we go into a listing, I know agents, some of our listings, we spent 2 to 3, 4 days on, right? We'd get a call on Monday and we would book Thursday and Friday because it was $3, $4, $5 million and we wanted to be super prepared, right? But our average listing, we would spend anywhere from 4 to 12 hours prepping, right? Driving the neighborhood, doing CMAs, calling and researching the pendings, role playing, right? Practicing how to neutralize the objections that were going to come up. I'm going to give you guys a couple of frameworks, DHIS, PSW, right? We would check on the online valuations. We would call the neighbors, right? We would do everything, right? We would look at FSBOs, case studies, right? We would practice with our mom, our dad, our uncle, whoever would listen to us, right? And a lot of work goes into getting a listing. People always say, oh, listings are easier. Well, they're not if you do it the right way. Now, buyers pre-July 1st, 89%, right? Remember this number, 89% of agents that we have talked to, Sharon would probably back this number. I think I got it from Sharon, said they had no formal buyer presentation or process, and they would spend less than 1 hour to prepare. Here's what they would do. They would prepare a day of showings, and they would call that preparation. That is not preparation, right? They would ask, hey, what day do you want to go see homes? Monday or Wednesday? Hey, can I put you on a drip? They would check available homes because maybe the person, what they told them they want on the phone doesn't meet the criteria of what's available in that neighborhood, right? A friend of mine who runs a top team, he said that they had 300 buyer side transactions and they've never done a buyer's consultation, right? They're essentially glorified showing agents. All right. Well, that's problematic potentially in 2024 moving forward, right? So we prep 1/10 of the time, right? The buyer conversation is actually harder. And there's a couple of reasons why, but the one reason why it's harder is that most agents aren't used to these conversations. The buyers aren't used to these conversations, right? And the new world order that we're living in is going to force us to have these conversations where the buyer, right, is getting their consumer behavior is changing. It's the hardest sale to make. So now agents, in the world where the media says that agents don't do anything, right? The world where people talk openly bad about agents. Oh, they're glorified. They're this, they're unnecessary. AI, we could go to the listing, we could hire an attorney, we could do this all on our own. People don't want to pay more for people that don't do enough in their eyes. I disagree, but we're overpaid and we're basically essentially been rendered useless, right? So the more you prepare, the more confident you're going to be and the easier these difficult conversations are going to come. I'm not going to go over the natural flow of a conversation to a sale, but the last thing is before we can ask about closing, right? We're going to close, then we're going to get objections, then we're going to close again, right? But we're going to get objections. We might get multiple rounds of objections on our close, and that's okay. They are the natural progression of the sales process. That's a good thing, right? If somebody says no to you, that means they shut you down and they don't want to deal with you anymore. So a couple of quick tips. There's no more commission breath. We're not going to vomit how great we are in sales. We're going to detach from the outcome, right? Service over sales. Don't go into seller mode. Go into discovery, curiosity. Go back to results-based thinking. Use what you listen into the conversation by asking great discovery questions. We call them TRIZ questions. Use those questions and frameworks when you are building the gap, the emotional problem. Use those questions to then help the prospect get back to their emotions of why they reached out in the first place. A couple of tips, breathe. I know I'm talking really fast here. I got 4 hours of content in 45 minutes, if less. Breathe, slow down. Don't buy into what they're saying. Don't believe the objections. Don't listen to it. 99% of what they're giving you is a smokescreen, and we get super uptight about things. Reassure them. Remember, there's conditions, things that they can't do now, right? But that doesn't mean they can't do something in the future. That's called a pipeline. Create a plan, create the follow-up, and help guide them through the process. That's our job, right? That's our job. We're the doctor, all right? An objection is something they're giving you because you didn't do the process properly. You may not have asked the right questions. Maybe you weren't listening properly. You guys, we review our sales team calls every day. And I also review my private clients, our teams that we work with. My buddy runs Sheridan Street, and we review hundreds of calls a month for him and his clients. 85%, if not more, I'd have to get his stats, is because the agent was so busy trying to go to the next step instead of being conversational. If you learn to have great conversations instead of trying to go through the perfect script, you will help more people, right? But if it's an objection, we can handle it. Maybe you triggered them, right? We want to learn to not be reactional. We want to be tactical. We want to be prepared, cool, calm, detached. We want to plan for the hardest objections, right? Money. Oh, you're not worth anything. You're a slimy realtor. I'm not paying you a commission. You don't deserve jack nonsense. Prepare for those so that when they come, you're like, all right, cool. I'm chill. I'm calm. Write this down. Disarm, humanize, isolate, solve. Disarm, humanize, and isolate. Solve. If your prospect, there's a thing in the brain called the amygdala, right? I wasn't going to get into this thing in the brain called the amygdala. The amygdala is what is responsible for fight or flight or freeze in the body. When the body is in fight, fight, or freeze, our prefrontal cortex shuts down. When our prefrontal cortex shuts down, we are no longer able to make rational decisions. That's why when a telemarketer calls you and like, ring, ring, hi, it's John with ABC Company. How are you doing today? You immediately go into fight, fight, or freeze. You forgot what you were doing and you're like, I got to get off the phone as quick as possible. When we do that to our prospect, they do the same exact thing. Our job is to keep them neutral throughout the entire process while we reduce friction. We do that through our systems, our processes, our skills. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is disarm them. The second thing is we just need to be human with them. We need to have a conversation, right? Stop assuming. So many people assume, like this is my biggest pet peeve with 8 salespeople in the world. I've been in 9 different industries. Every single one of us makes a lot of assumptions that we know what the problem is. If you know what the problem is, then you own their problem. If they tell you what the problem is because you ask great sorting questions, you ask great rapport building questions, trust building questions, right? You ask them questions that help move the needle in the sales process. And we can humanize and isolate their true objections. It's like an onion, right? Shrek, it's like, I'm like an onion, right? Horrible Shrek accent, right? I may as well do an Indian accent, right? But we got to peel the layers back. When we peel the layers back, we're going to get to the point where we tap into the real objection. Now we can actually solve for it, right? And we're not solving it. We're working with them to come up with the best viable solution for them in their circumstance. I'm a believer right now that it's probably the best time to buy for most people, not everybody, right? But I don't know until they tell me what their goals are and why they're trying not to do and take actions, right? I don't know if it's the best time for them. So until they tell me, I can't solve for solutions just by throwing and vomiting a bunch of stuff at them, okay? PSW, problem, solution, what's in it for them? It's 3-pillar approach. The first pillar is the problem. The second pillar is the solution that you provide. The third pillar is what's in it for them. Here's a quick little example. right? I'm going to just give you guys a quick example. Now, one of the biggest problems, and I'm going to zen out because I'm in presentation mode. I got to go back into sales mode. So now one of the biggest problems that buyers have when they come to us is it's actually exactly what you said. They don't want to pay a commission because they feel like, right? They feel like it's going to raise the price of the home, or they're going to have to bring money out of pocket, right? You guys see like out of pocket, they're going to have to bring money out of pocket to cover the difference. And actually the way we solve this for our clients, just like you, is what we call our 3-channel approach to funding the commissions. And what this means for you is that, and this is like actually what we're seeing with the majority of the time, is that we're actually able to get you the funding you need to work with us, included in the price of the offer, just kind of like how it used to be in the past. Now, you're going to get the protection you need, right? You're going to get the protection you need to get your daughter and son into the school that they want and have their own bedroom so that they're not fighting and, right, like causing chaos when you're on a Zoom call, right? You're going to also get the protection legally, right? Because like you said, that was one of your main concerns, is that you're signing a legally binding agreement for $850,000 with, a $40,000 earnest money down payment. Like, you're going to get the legal protection from myself and my team, right? So that we can have the kids in school by mid-July so that you guys can go take your family vacation in August. The kids are moved in. Johnny's got the race car bed, right? You got the walls and everything dialed in, and you guys can start the school year off end of August with no stress, right? Problem, solution, what's in it for them? You should write that down, right? Here's some of the common objections, you guys. We're not going to hit all of them, but we're going to hit some commissions. We're going to hit some, I think we're going to hit, I want to wait. We're going to hit, I want to use a listing agent, or I'm just going to do it on my own. But let's take a breath. When you get an objection, right, here's the common emotions that we feel. Anger. How dare they give me an objection? I just went through a 35-minute presentation. They should be thankful that I'm here. No, they shouldn't. There's a lot more of you than there are of them. Disbelief, cold sweats, nervousness, discouragement. We go into scarcity mindset. I need this deal. I have to pay my bills. Verbal vomiting. We start telling them all about ourselves. Impatient, robotic, salesy, frustrated, challenged, right? We feel the need to justify and explain everything again. Uncomfortable. And we don't need to do any of that. The TRIZ method of selling teaches you that these are totally common, right? But we're still in the trust, rapport, and influence stage. And when we have the right intention, right? Like if you guys work with me, you will see that my intention is always pure to help you. And I can call you out with love, right? The secret weapon of sales is love, because I'm always coming from a good place. I might not always have the best delivery because when I'm, right, train mode versus sales mode, but I can come from a place of love and be stern. I can come from a place of love and challenge your assumptions, your thoughts, your thinking. Your intention creates a lot of the importance of what's going on here. Fight or flight, we talked about it. We're not here to persuade. It's our job, remember, to educate the prospect. It's not the job of the prospect to come pre-approved, ready to buy, educated on the process without questions, right? It's our job to show them that. Do not be a search and show agent. Search and show agents are the agents that put everybody on a drip campaign. Hey, I'll put you on a drip campaign. Call me when you're ready to go see some stuff, and then we'll have you sign the agreement. We'll have you sign the buyer agency contract, and then I'll be able to get to work for you because everybody in the marketplace needs to sign one of those. You probably heard about the new lawsuit. The buyer's overwhelmed. They don't know what to do. They're like, okay, we'll call you back. Mitts, everybody's on a drip. We want to keep them out of protection mode. You guys, you can read all of this. Some of the things that you guys might have felt when you're inside of a sales process, right? This is expensive. I'm scared to buy something. The market might crash. Send me an email. I need to think it over. You guys, when you're on my phone calls, when you guys reach out to me, right? And you guys are going to a coaching call and you guys are in the buying, these are the exact same objections you give, right? So it's normal that they're going to have these as a buyer. It's part of our human nature. It's human behavior. I want to talk about feel, felt, and found, because a lot of agents, when they're role playing with us, especially like our newer clients, are like, oh, well, we were taught, like, I know how you feel. I would have felt the same way. And here's what I found. Here's the problem with that. When you say feel, felt, found, you're taking the power away from the prospect to share what they're going through. You're taking their power away to be heard, right? One of the most important things is people don't feel heard, especially in a world where there's so much noise. You are now also owning their problem, which means now you are responsible for the solution which means it's not their problem, which means they don't need to make a change, right? So, hey, I know how you feel. I would have felt the same way if I was trying to buy a home, with the interest rates being almost 8% now and prices being so high. Like, you could have bought last year, but you didn't. But here's what I found. I found that it's actually still a great time to buy in the market, because it's not about timing the market, it's about time in the market. And the buyer's like, I don't care about that. They understand that from a logical point, but you just shut them down emotionally. We're not listening to their concerns. Clarifying questions allow you to go deeper, right? So you're going to hear me use clarifying questions. And the TRIZ check-in questions, these are what you use throughout your process, right? How do you see this helping you? Does this sound good? Does this look like what you're looking for? I was wondering, what are your thoughts on the seller universe and us marketing to the sellers for you as a buyer? What are your thoughts on, right? What are your thoughts on the specifics of what you're doing? What are your thoughts on like creating an offer strategy before creating offer pricing, so that we know how to perfectly craft your offer when it comes time to winning your home at the price that you want, at the terms that you want, and the location that you want, right? You guys see how we're utilizing all this? So any questions around how this works, or on how this works, or how do you see this helping you the most? So when you're flow showing and demoing, right? Sharon talks a lot about flow, show, and demo, right? We talk a lot about that inside of our program. When you're doing flow, show, and demo, you need to ask them the questions like, how do you see this helping you? How do you see this working for you? Like, any questions about this specifically. Handle the objections before you transition to the next frame, because if you handle them there, you don't get them at the end. Or if you do get them at the end, take good notes and you can say, oh yeah, remember when we were talking about this and you said this? Oh yeah, I forgot. We are going to hit them with a lot of information, and they've never been put through this process before. Because remember, 89% of agents did not have a process. All right, so now let's get into a couple of disarming statements, because if we can't disarm the prospect, we can't humanize and isolate. And then we'll actually go into the objections. So here are a couple of statements that you can use. I agree, right? I agree. Prices are high. I agree. Nobody wants to pay a commission. I agree. We never had to do this before. You're right. You're right. We never had to do this before. You're right. Another one is, yeah, that's not a problem. Let's say they say, I want to think about it. Yeah, that's not a problem. I guess, like, what would be your time frame on getting, like, for us to get back together the next day or two, right? Just to make sure, like, I'd be available. And they'll be like, oh, well, I don't know. Well, why don't we just do this? Why don't we just book in a time here? And, like, let's say tomorrow or maybe on Thursday. And I could just come back over, so you guys have had some time to think about some things, and then we can talk about next steps. Oh, that'd be great. And then you book in the time. And then the next step, we go into actually humanizing and isolating that objection. The way we do it would be super simple. I don't know if it's in this training, but we would say something like, oh, no worries. And just so that I'm prepared, right? What is it that you need to think about? And then they're going to tell you the real objection because they think you're leaving. And then you can start to isolate it, have a conversation, and then you can solve it typically right then and there. Or if you do need to come back, because, not everybody's going to close with you and sign your agreement on the first day. When you come back, you are able to just get right back into the conversation. All right. So that was 4 hours of content that we covered in 22 minutes. Go back and watch this again and really, really like slow it down, because there's a lot of content in here. If this was valuable for you, just go to IG, follow me, Coach Vikram Deol. So show some social credit, share this with some of your friends, and let's jam.